this is another edition of Talk It Out. This month, we're focusing on trauma and PTSD. My name is Megs Reynolds, and I'm the Executive Director of the Do More Agriculture Foundation. We're the national voice and champion for mental health in Canadian agriculture. And joining me today is Sean Stanford. Sean, thank you so much for coming on Talk It Out to share your experiences. I'm going to hand it over to you to let you further introduce yourself.
Sure. Like Meg said, my name is Sean. I'm a grain farmer in southern Alberta. I farm near the town of McGrath, south of Lethbridge. I'm a fourth generation farmer. Uh, so my family's been in the area for quite a long time. I besides being a grain farmer, I grow different crops: wheat, barley, canola, flax. I've done peas before, but they're not my favorite. Um, but also, I am a heavy duty mechanic. I work that job in the winter time. And also, I'm a volunteer firefighter in the town of McGrath.
You sound very busy.
I
Thank
am
you for
busy.
taking time this morning to have a chat.
You bet.
Um, so yeah, I think we'll just jump in with with our topic. Is there one um, everything in life can affect everyone differently. And I know if I look back on my time farming, there are things that I realize now were traumatic to me that maybe wouldn't have been traumatic to someone else. So is there anything kind of in your past with the way you're engaged in things that stands out to you as an event that maybe you didn't realize was traumatic at the time, or maybe you did, but that you realized later down the road that it had like a lasting effect on your mental wellness?
Yeah, for sure. So trauma does affect everybody differently. Everybody takes it in a different way and deals with it in a different way. I haven't had specifically trauma on the farm per se, but most of my trauma stems from incidents I've been involved with on the fire department.
And
So
were those like, is that something that you guys as a department talked about after, or it was kind of showed up to something and then you just went home and kind of dealt with it on your own after?
well, it's kind of complicated because a lot of my issues stem from a long time ago, and I didn't know they were issues until recent years.
Mhm.
So a lot of that trauma and a lot of those issues got stuffed down inside. We do so when we have a serious call on the fire department, like if somebody happens to die or get hurt really bad or a bad car accident, something like that, we usually have a debrief session immediately after, within the next 24 hours kind of thing, where we all sit around in a circle and talk about it and how everybody's feeling, how everybody's doing kind of thing. And then that was usually it. Um, we would just all carry on with our day after that. In recent years, we've noticed more that guys need a follow up, a week after, 2 weeks after, just to make sure everything is still okay. Because, like I said, trauma affects everybody differently, and it could be a different timeline. You could still have some shock yourself after you go to an event like that, and it might not be appearing, to the surface right away. So, a lot of my trauma stems from issues that have happened almost 15 years ago now. So, yeah, they were stuffed down inside for quite a few years before they actually came to surface and caused me a lot of problems in 2017.
And I know I've heard your story. We actually testified together to the Agriculture Standing Committee on mental health and agriculture. But can you share how you first became aware that there were things going on with your mental wellness that you needed to get some support with?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, it was early 2017. We'd had a rough farming year. There wasn't a lot of crop in the bin to sell. The prices were low. It was just kind of a perfect storm of everything not working properly. And I remember I was working in my dad's shop rebuilding an engine on a tractor. And later that night, I went home and I woke up in the middle of the night with huge chest pains. I thought I was having a heart attack. So my wife at the time rushed me to the hospital and we got checked out and found out that I was okay. It wasn't a heart attack, but I continued to go to the hospital with severe chest pains for the next week. And finally, one of the doctors said, "Well, I think this is actually an anxiety attack." And then he said, "I'm going to give you a light dose of some medication to help kind of cool you off a little bit, and we're going to get you involved with our community health therapist and talk to him and start to unpack what's going on and see if we can find out what your issues actually are. So once we started working into that, I said, well, this is the deal with the farming, everything's kind of tough there. And he said, well, what else are you involved in or what else happens? And that's when we really started to dive into the issues and the trauma I had from the fire department. And that's where we realized that I had PTSD.
And from that, was that the person that kinda set a course of action on, "This is how I think we're gonna best support you through this?" Like, or was that, you had that talk with that professional, and then you kinda went off to say, "Okay, I need to figure out how to learn more about this and manage this and live with this."
Yeah, so that professional was a great help, actually. He set me up with some people that were more specified with working with PTSD and that sort of trauma. So he was the first stepping stone, actually. Then my family doctor, as well, at the time, set me up with some better medications to help me be able to regulate myself better. And yeah, I proceeded to do a lot of therapy, uh, a lot of it pretty quickly to try to see exactly what was going on. And it was, like I said, specialized therapy and counseling for PTSD. So there is a lot of different variations of counselors and therapists out there. So this guy was more specialized into what I needed. So
That's a very good point, especially for anyone watching or listening to this, that it's important to find the best support for you and what you're going through, and sometimes that means talking to or trying more than one person before finding that right fit.
yeah, for sure. Like I've over the course of the past 6 years, I think I've had 6 or 7 different therapists until I found, the right sequence that works for me, somebody I can jive with and that understands my issues. So yeah, it's not a one size fits all by any means.
Mhm. And what have you I'm sure through this whole process, you've learned some coping mechanisms that you bring into your day to day or just how to, take care of your mental health when, you touched on how it was a challenging farm year in 2017, and that was not the root, but almost the catalyst of starting the panic attack. So are there things kind of in your now day-to-day life that you use to help, manage outside of some of the traditional things?
Yeah, there is for sure. So there's medication I do take every day still. I've been doing that for quite a few years. So that seems to help a lot. Um, it's not just, take a pill and magically everything's better, but it's a way for me to be able to process my life a little easier rather than struggling every day and trying to think that the world's coming down on top of me. It's much easier to be able to process everything, just being regulated better with the chemicals in my brain. So that's been a huge help day to day. I'm trying to eat healthier. I'm trying to be more active. All the things that are good for your life. They do actually matter. So
Mm,
yeah, being active is tough, especially harvest time and springtime. You sit in the combine cab or the tractor cab for 14, 15 hours a day. It's pretty hard to be active, but get out and run around once in a while and go for a walk when you can. Try to pack healthier snacks rather than just chips and chocolate bars all day. So actual good food that gives you energy, that seems
mhm.
to help a lot too. So there are a lot of little things that you can do. You don't have to do major big steps every day. It's the little things that really matter and add up at the end.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that can be a barrier too for people trying to start taking care of themselves better or finding those things that work for them to recharge their batteries even in the busy season where it can be like, "Oh, I can't go do an hour workout, so there's nothing I can do." It's like, well, you could while the tractor, the combine's warming up, just be walking, pacing up and down in the field or, when you're in the office. Now, if I'm in the office on the phone, if I don't have to be on like a video, I'll just be pacing. And it's not because I'm stressed. I need to, trying to get steps in or move my body because I know that that's going to make me feel better at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Like last night, it was 8:30 or something. I just decided to go for a walk, so I went for a walk down the road and back just to get some steps in and move my body a bit and get some fresh air. can
Yeah.
unwind from the day kind of thing. So things like that. It doesn't have to be something huge. You don't have to dedicate an hour if you don't have an hour,
Mm.
but just doing something's better than doing nothing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think it's really common too, like how you talked about thinking you were having a heart attack. That's one of the things that's come up a fair amount, more in men when they share their stories, that seems to be a pretty, um, I don't wanna say common, but one of the big signs for some people that they have pushed down, and maybe not just trauma, but just not dealing with some of the things that we need to be dealing with, that it can manifest in those physical, effects in our bodies. It's not just in our heads anymore.
Yeah, I think men are probably more stubborn and they don't want to get to help right away when they think they need to or when they should actually. So yeah, it does eventually just that's what happened with me. It built up until it turned into a major issue and it felt like yeah, I was literally having a heart attack. Whereas, if I would have paid a little more attention earlier on with the smaller issues and things that were affecting me, I might not have manifested into such a major issue like it did.
Do you think looking back now that they're like now with everything that you know that you would be able to catch kind of those things of saying, "Okay, like I need to, talk to someone about this, or I need to continue to work through this." Um, or is it like because you know the things you know now that you would just kind of stay on top of that and not get to a place where you're looking for kind of those signs?
Knowing what I know now, I would say that, yeah, I should have done a better job with taking care of myself. It's not really anybody else's responsibility besides my own to take care of me and know what's kind of going on. So when I was having, or when we did have those couple real bad fire calls that really affected me years down the road, I could have taken more time and I could have been more open about how I was actually feeling rather than just stuffing those feelings down inside of me and thinking that I was okay just because everybody else on the department seemed to be okay as well. Well, it turns out that some of them weren't
Yeah.
as well as they thought they were either. So, you know, looking back, it's always easy with 2020 vision, but yeah, at the time, it just seemed like this was the right thing to do and this was the right path to go down. So I know now that that was not correct. And yeah, it would be much easier for me to move forward now with a correct plan if something really traumatic like that was to happen again.
Mm. Well, and I think, I mean, for men, there was most likely more pressure, right? Of not of being okay, of always being okay, and like you said,
Mhm.
they seemed fine, so you should have been fine too, and I know I experienced that with some of the stuff with farming, but, I think we're hopefully at a day and age where we can start realizing that just because someone seems fine does not mean that they are fine, or does not mean that we are fine, and oftentimes those are the ones you wanna be checking on, right?
Yeah, for sure. The sometimes the quietest and the most, ones that seem to be the strongest are sometimes the weakest, and they just are better at hiding it than others. No, you're totally right there.
Or just, yeah, something going on, right? Like, not necessarily weak, but having something going on, and, yeah, it's we all have challenges, whether that is, being on the fire department and having a traumatic call that you have to deal with, or whatever else life throws at you, right? But understanding that how we react to that is our truth, and I think giving ourselves space and grace to process instead of beating ourselves up about reacting to it a way maybe we don't want to react because we think that that means we're weak or that we're less than or what have you, and understanding that we're human and we're not.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, you're totally right with that. So it's and like I said, it affects everybody differently too.
Yeah.
So um you and I could experience the exact same issues and we would react totally different to them. So each person has their own way of dealing with these things and that's what makes it tricky. So
Mhm. When you I'm guessing you have a pretty good support structure kind of around you now. Did you at the beginning, or was that something that as you were going through the process of learning about PTSD and how it was affecting you that you kind of had to build out?
yeah, no, in the beginning I knew that there was some sorts of supports out there. I just didn't know what they were and that I actually needed them. So it did take quite a while for me to get in a network of good people and kind of a team to help me through all these things, really. So that includes, like I said, my a couple different counselors, therapists that I've worked with, my family doctor, my current fire chief now, who's really good at supporting us whenever we have any kind of issues. He's good at checking in on us after traumatic calls too.
Mhm.
And yeah, family, friends, you know, the whole thing's really opened up for me after I opened myself up to be able to accept that I have issues.
And talk about stuff, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. To talk about it was the hardest part, but now that I've talked about it, it's easier for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, I've had the same experience. It can be, yeah, very, very hard at first. What advice do you have for others that might be going through something or maybe are thinking that they could have PTSD or they've had something that's impacted them and they're wondering kind of where to go?
Probably the best advice I could say is don't be afraid to reach out to others, others that either have experienced the same things as you or somebody that you really trust. You know, you can talk to about it. Um, a lot of people around me in the beginning didn't have any idea what was going on with me or how to react to what I was dealing with. So, like I said, my family doctor was a good resource for sure. That's usually the first place I point people to go to is to talk to them, and then they can refer you to any kind of specialist if you need it. They have a huge network on their side too of different therapists and counselors that they can direct you towards. But just starting to open up and talk about it is the hardest part, but it's the best part too.
Yeah, and to hopefully help with that is our Egg Talk platforms, our peer-to-peer support platform, because that is a fully anonymous place that people can go and share. And I don't know if it helped you, but even just the act of like putting something out there, especially in an anonymous setting, for me it was more online, but it was like I could take something off my chest just by like saying it or sharing it a
Sure.
little bit. And
Yeah.
there's
No,
counselors on it too.
you're totally right. Just getting it off your chest and getting it out there in the open. That's like I said, it's the hardest part, but it opens the door and opens the gates, I guess, to letting yourself be able to start to heal.
Mhm. Is there anything you feel like we've missed in our conversation that you would like to share or you would like people to know?
I think people need to know that they're not alone. If they're
Mm,
struggling or if they feel like they might be the only ones dealing with these issues or they don't know where to turn or anything, just they need to know they're not alone. Um, there's a lot of people out there that either can cope differently, maybe possibly better, but there's people out there that are also struggling and hiding it as well. So don't feel like you're alone. Everybody needs to just be able to know that it's okay to talk these things out. And it can get better. It got better for me. It is getting better day by day, it seems like. And I was in a pretty dark place quite a few years ago, but I've made it this far and things have, gotten a lot better and it can get better for you as well.
thank you for sharing that. And thank you so much for joining us today and talking about your experience. We really appreciate it. This, is how we normalize the conversation and how we, how other people understand they're not alone, right? They see someone that's brave to talk about and share their stories and their journeys. For anyone looking for more information on mental health in agriculture or to find resources, you can head over to domore.ag. We have a full resource page there. You can also connect and sign up to Ag Talk, which is our national peer-to-peer support platform, which is fully anonymous for anyone 16 years and older and monitored 24/7 by mental health clinicians at domore.ag/agtalk. Sean, thanks again for coming on.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me and thanks for letting me share my story.
And thank you to everyone who has watched the video. Take care.